Hey guys, Balkan Architect here, and in this week's Advanced Balkan Architect course, we're up to part 10 of our office building in Revit, and in this week's course, I'm showing you how to create renderings for our building, and as you can see over here, this is the final version of the rendering. This is what we get for the exterior rendering. We also set up this cool bird's eye 3D view, and then also I will be showing you how to do an interior rendering of this office. So I'm going to be talking about all of the tools and features that Revit has on offer to make these renderings look a bit nicer, and all of the tips and tricks along the way, how to save time when creating images like this, and also how to make them look a bit more realistic and a bit more livelier than your regular renderings. Okay, so with that out of the way, and without further ado, let's get straight into the course. We're going to get started by placing the cameras. Now, the first reason for placing the cameras first before doing anything else regarding rendering is simply because for renderings you will have to add some elements to your model. So we're actually going to be refining this model a little bit, adding a few more elements just to make everything livelier and thus making it a bit more realistic. Now, if you want to do this for your whole model, it's going to take really a lot of time, and it's really a lot of work. So the most efficient thing to do is to create your 3D views first, and then once you have created those views, you know where you have to place elements that are going to make those views seem a lot better, a lot more interesting, and a lot more realistic. So let's get started by placing views. Now I'm going to go first here to the project browser and just scroll a little bit. Let's maybe collapse the ceiling plans menu just to make everything a bit easier to navigate, because we won't be using that for now. And here, as you can see, under 3D views, we have 3 views. Now the regular 3D views in these parentheses is currently turned on. That's your default 3D view. And then we have 2 new 3D views, and these are both perspective views. Now the first one is viewing the stair, and the second one is viewing the building. Now I want to create these 2 from scratch, so I'm actually just going to go ahead and delete these. So just go like this, delete. There we go. So we're back to just one view. Now when placing views, you want to go to the view where your camera, or let's say the person that's viewing the building, is going to be standing at. So I want to have a couple of views. The first one is going to be looking maybe from this sidewalk at the building, so basically looking at the building from this corner, and it's going to be a view that's a bit closer in. And the second one is going to be viewing at the building from a bit from up here, so just a bit higher. So what I'm going to do for that, for the first view, let's go just here to the ground level, just because this is at ground. Here we can see, or street level. Yeah, so we just need to go there to our street level or ground level. And let's go to street level for this, just because I want to be standing here on the pavement. And then let's go here to camera, and here it's currently at default 3D view. Let's just open up the menu, and here we have camera. Now you just click once to place the position of the person that's viewing the building or your camera. So I'm just going to click somewhere around here. Now the second click is going to be somewhere over here. Now as you can see, as I extend this camera, we're going to have this one line that's basically the direction of the view. And then we have these 2 lines on the side. They're going at kind of, I don't know, like 30-degree angle or something like that. That's basically showing you what is going to be encompassed inside of this view. So just a couple of things. Make sure that it's kind of encompassing the whole building. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can always change that a little bit later. You can make the view wider, but it's always really important to make sure that you don't click here somewhere inside of the building. Just make sure to go past the building, and then you click. So just extend it like this, go past the building, and now we're just going to do the second click over here. So just click like that, and there we go. This is what we get. So we can see here the approach to the building. Here we have the stair and the big revolving door that's over here. Now the problem with this 3D view is the fact that we don't see the rest of the building. Now there are a couple of ways that you can achieve this. You can maybe extend the view a little bit, kind of like this and like this. And to get the rest of the building, you can stretch this out and you can get the full building. Now, some people don't like to stretch this out. A couple of reasons for that is the perspective gets a little bit warped. So as you can see over here, it is a bit warped. So that's the first problem, and some people don't like that. So I would go, let's just go back, or maybe just, oops, let's go back. Yeah, let's make this a bit smaller again. Yeah, like that. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing now is to show you the different way that you can see the top of the building, and that's by using the full navigation wheel. Now that's located over here on the right side of the screen. When I hover over this button, it says full navigation wheel. Let's try that again. There we go, full navigation wheel. Now, if you don't have that option, maybe you should just open up this drop menu, and here it may be featuring some of the other ones. So just make sure that the full navigation wheel is checked. And once you have that, just go back here to the top button and click, and you get this navigation wheel. Now here, as you can see, here we have the look option just in the bottom left side or quadrant of this inner wheel. So just go here to the middle of the screen, you click on that look, you press and hold, and there we go. Now we can kind of look upward. Now, as you can see, if I look upward to the top of this building, and maybe we can't even see the top of the building like this, so let me just close this wheel off and maybe extend this a bit on the top and a bit on the bottom, just like that. Now we can see the top of the building, but now we have a different problem. The perspective has warped the building a little bit. So if you look here at the sides of the building, you're going to notice that the sides are going to be slanted just like this. Same thing goes with this side. If I just move this in, you're going to notice that we have an angle here. Maybe it's like 10 degrees or 15 degrees, but as you can see, it is a significant and noticeable angle. Now, some people don't like this, and actually in building photography, people actually try to kind of get rid of this angle. They don't like it. So let's go back. Let's see. Now here, as you can see, I'm playing around with the angle, and we're back at the beginning stage. So what you can do to fix that, you can kind of stretch it off like this, but to avoid this sharp angles and warping of the perspective, you can just move your point of view or the position of the camera a bit further back. So to do so and to fix this view, you would have to first select the view, so make sure that it's selected, and once this is highlighted, once you go back to your street level, it's still going to be visible over here. Now, if we go back and deselect this and go back to the street level view, as you can see, the view isn't selected. So you have to go here, select the kind of the surrounding of the view, go back to street level, and then just extend it like this. So you can just kind of pull it out like that. Maybe like this. And also here we have this option. This is kind of the far out clip for your view. So here, as you can see, it has the far clip offset option, and that's this. So if you stretch this out, as you can see, this number increases. Now it's 8,000, now it's almost 10,000, but I actually like to just uncheck this far clip active. And if you uncheck that, you don't really have that option anymore. It's basically looking into infinity. Now let's go back here into 3D view 1, and as you can see, now the building is further away, so you can make this a bit smaller. But what's really good about this view is, as you can see, these lines are now vertical. So if I pull this in closer, you're going to notice that it's absolutely parallel to the edge of the view, but we don't have that nasty sharp warp going on over here. So everything looks a bit better, and actually I prefer it this way. So that's how you make the optimum 3D view for the outer perspective. So that would be the approach. It doesn't look warped, it doesn't look weird, it looks actually perfect. Now, just to make sure that your basically aligning this view perfectly so you would have those vertical edges. What you can always do is once this view crop window is selected, go ahead over here and find the eye elevation and target elevation and just check those numbers out. Now if these numbers are matching, you're going to get those perfect parallel lines, and if not, you're going to get a little bit of warping like that, nasty sharp angles. So just make sure that these two are basically properly or matching, and you won't have those nasty angles. So there you go, that's how you set up the view perfectly. Now, one more thing that is really important to note about creating views like this is try to avoid orbiting. So let's go back here to the regular 3D view. Now here, if I just orbit around, so just like you would when viewing your model and working on it, you can just spin around easily. But if you are in the 3D view like this, and if you try to orbit around, it's going to mess up that perspective, just because when you orbit like this, and now let's go here in the properties, you're going to notice that the eye elevation and target elevation are now out of sync. So either don't orbit, or what you would have to do is just go here and then make sure to fix either the eye elevation or target elevation. Usually when orbiting, or actually always when orbiting, you're going to be messing up the eye elevation, and the target elevation is going to be staying fixed. So then you can just adjust this and then hit apply, and then that would fix your eye elevation. So if you mess it up by orbiting it around, just go back here and make sure that these match, and you're good to go. Now once I'm finished setting up the proper angle, I'm just going to go here to 3D views, and let's rename this view properly. So just by default, Revit is going to name it 3D view and then 1, just because it's the first one that we have, and it's just going to be adding numbers. So it would be 3D view 2, 3D view 3 if you would continue adding views. Now I like to rename these immediately, so I'm just going to go here into rename, type in first 1 just to make sure that this is going to go down numerically, and then it's going to be 1, and then let's call it main 3D view. Hit enter, and there we go. So we have our main 3D view, and that one is currently active. Now let's create a new one. Now for the second one, that perspective or that nasty warping, we're going to use to our advantage. So I want to have a view that's viewing the building maybe from top down, and by adding that perspective, it's going to make it look a bit more interesting. So to create that view, what I'm going to do is go here to my floor plans, and let's go to roof level. Here we go. So we're at roof level, and I want to be viewing the building from this side, just because, as you can see, from that side we have the tree, we have it looks nice. I think the building looks nice, and also this overhang is a bit more visible, so you can see the basically the shape of the building a bit better. So that's why I'm making the view from that direction. So let's go back here to roof view. Then I'm going to go back and again use the camera, and of course you can always go here to view and then find the same option here. Go to camera, click once somewhere over here, a bit further away from the building that we did in the last one, just like this. Then go and kind of encompass the whole building with the view. Click again, and there we go. It looks something like this. Now for this one, I'm going to go and use the look option and then kind of look down a little bit. And then let's maybe close out of this. And now let's maybe orbit around a little bit, try to find a perfect view. Now you can use the full navigation wheel even more, so you can maybe zoom out just by holding the mouse key and then kind of moving it down. So maybe something like this. Then let's look, and then you can select one of the objects and then orbit around that object. So you can play around with this view, but as you can see here, perspective is or this distortion is actually working towards our advantage. I think it makes the whole model look a bit cooler, just because we're viewing it top down, and it makes sense to make it just a bit warped because it's kind of the bird's eye view perspective. So we can play around a little bit. And then once we're happy with the view orientation, let's just leave it like this. and yeah, I'm happy with this. So let's rename this one, and I'm going to go here to and again, as you can see, it's named 3D view 1. Just right click here, go into rename, and then let's call this one number 2, and this will be bird's eye view. There we go. So we have our second rendering view. And for the third view, let's do an interior rendering. So I'm just going to go here to the first level. Yeah, over here. And then let's go ahead and create a camera, and it will just be a camera over here, maybe viewing the workspace. I don't know, something like that from here, perhaps. And then let's see what that looks like. Yeah, what I'm actually going to do is kind of move away. Now I want to kind of move the position of the camera, and let me show you another trick that you can use for playing around with the position of the camera. And we're going to go back to the navigation wheel, and let's go here to the walk option. So you just click here, you hold, and then you move your cursor just a bit down, and as you can see, it's going to start walking away. So as soon as you get out of this greenish circle, it's going to start moving away. Now if you go too far back, it's going to go outside of the building, so you just go a bit forward, and there you go. I think this maybe a bit back. There we go. I think this is a good position. Then you can look maybe a bit like this. Let's cancel out of this and maybe just stretch the view a little bit. There we go. I think this looks nice. I think it's a cool view. We can play around with it a bit more if necessary, but there we go. For now, we can leave it as is, and this would be our interior view. I think it's nice because we can see this tree outside, and that's kind of cool. Okay, so that will be the interior view. So let's go here to 3D views, right click, and then rename, and let's call it 3 interior view. Maybe interior 3D view. Hit enter and save it, and there you go. We have our main 3 rendering views all set up and completed. Now, before moving on, there is just one more really important thing that we should discuss before anything else, and that's the orientation of this view. So this view is set up in a way that I'm really happy with that, and while I will be working on these views, I'm going to be opening it up pretty regularly, and there's an option that I might accidentally move it a little bit and move it off to the side or something like that. Now you can always go back by going to this navigation wheel and then going to rewind and then just going 1 frame backwards, and there we go. So now we're back where we were, but just to stop those accidents from repeating in the future, what you can always do is go down here and find the option where it looks like a house or like the 3D view here, and it has a little lock button. So currently it says unlocked 3D view, but you can just click there and then go to save orientation and lock view. So you just click there, and there we go. Now it's locked. Now if I go to orbit, as you can see, it won't work. I get this little option where I can't really mess with it. Now I can select it and move it around, or maybe expand the view, or the crop size, I can change it, but I cannot orbit around the view. So I suggest you go through all of your new views and save orientation and lock it in place. So just like that. And there we go. So now once these are locked, you just don't have to worry about messing them up and orbiting around accidentally. Okay, once that is set up, now it's time to set up the proportions of this view, or the view size. Now at this point, what you need to do is you need to select the crop view around your view, and then go here to the modify tab, and here we have, of course, the crop option, and it says size crop. Now once you select this option, you get the crop region size, and here it gives you the full width and height of this current view. Now, just imagine that this was printed out, and if it were printed out, the height should be around 102 millimeters, and the width should be 139 millimeters. So that would be the dimensions of this rendering. Now, because I want this to be my main rendering, and perhaps we will be printing it out on maybe a larger panel or a board, what I suggest you do is you make this a bit larger. Now, if you just change one of these numbers, it's going to mess up the proportions. So what I suggest you do is go here and check scale, and then you change one of these numbers. So let's say the width should be 400 millimeters, and once you hit apply, you're going to notice that the height will change immediately. Now, if you click OK, you're going to notice that nothing really changes with the view, so just these numbers have changed, but the view has stayed the same. It basically changed the size of the view, so once we render it out, if you print it in the proper dimensions, the view will look nice. It won't be pixelated or blurry or anything like that. Now, again, I suggest going through all of your 3D views and then changing the crop size. Let's maybe change this one to go to scale, and then let's go with perhaps 250 for this one. Hit apply, OK, and then for this one, again, go here to size crop, and then let's change it again to 250. Now, perhaps you want to fit into some particular dimension. In that, maybe, for example, this should be 250 by 150, and as you can see, this one is 154. So in order to fix that, what you need to do is either go here and change the number, but then just stay at field of view. So let's change that here, hit apply, OK, and now as you can see, it has become a bit smaller. Now, if you haven't noticed that, let's go back here, open this up, and let's change this to just 100. Hit apply, and as you can see, it proportionately got smaller. So I'm just going to go back to 150, but if you have to have exact dimensions of the view, I suggest you change that here, and then leave it at field of view so you don't scale proportionately. Let's cancel out of that, and there we go. So now all of these views are correctly set up as far as their size. Now let's talk about shadows, or actually the sun. Well, that's what's giving us the shadows, or controlling them. So let's go to our main 3D view, or maybe the bird's eye view. Yeah, I think this would work a bit better. Now, to turn on shadows in any 3D view, you go here to just shadows, and as you can see, currently it says shadows off, but you just turn that on, and there you go, you have your shadows. Now, what's controlling this shadow? Well, you control that through sun settings. So here we have the sun path option. Now, if you open that up, you get the sun settings dialog. Now, you just click here to open that up, and there we go, we have the sun settings dialog. Now, currently it's set up to lighting. Now, this basically means that it's just calculating the angle of the light, and you can set it to sunlight from top right, sunlight from top left, and here we have the actual azimuth and altitude of the sun, so the position of the sun. So you can set it up in this way, but I don't really find this all that intuitive. You have the option to have a still, and this will basically allow you to add the location of your project. Now, this is something that we have done in the beginning. So here on map, this is where I placed the project. So I don't know, I think it was London, if I'm not mistaken. It was a few courses ago, but yeah, I think it's in London. So there we go, this is the position, and we have already set this up in one of the previous parts. So here we can set up the date, and it's currently taking the current date, and here we can set up the time, and it's taking the current time of recording of this course, but you can of course always change it. So maybe you can change it to 10 a.m. So let's change it to 10 a.m. and set it to still, and now hit apply, and now just take a look at the shadows. So apply, and there we go. So the shadows have switched to the other side. So as you can see, the shadows go like this. Now you can of course play around with that. You can go back here to sun settings, and then maybe we can switch to, let's go to PM. So just place your cursor here, or just select this PM, and then you can use the arrow keys to toggle between these. Now let's go to PM, and let's do 2 PM, hit apply, and as you can see, we have something like this, or maybe even 100. Hit apply. There we go, looks even better. So you can play around with shadows this way. But let's say you want to orbit your whole project. So let's go to site plan for that. Open up your site plan, and here, as you can see, the project is pretty perpendicular to our screen. Now that's basically how Revit works. You model everything perpendicular to the screen, but that's because here under orientation, here for this site plan, we have project north and we have true north. So the project north is designed to be set up so everything is perpendicular over here, everything is set up correctly, and it's a lot easier to work with when your walls are horizontal and vertical. But in real life, it's rarely the case. So your building is always going to be oriented a bit weirdly. So let's switch this to true north. Hit apply, and nothing changes. Well, that's because we haven't really played around with the settings for true north. Now, to play around with that settings, you go to this center marker. Now, this is only going to be visible in your site plan just because of the view settings. So that's why I'm in here at the site plan. So you just click here, and you have this little kind of a little gadget or a little gizmo, and you can unpin it here. So this is like unpin it, and it looks like a little clip instead of a pin, but it works pretty much the same. So just click that, and now it's unpinned, and here maybe you can't really see it from the model, but it says angle to true north, and we can now change this angle. So maybe it's angled at 30 degrees from true north. Now you type in 30, and there we go, it orbits around. Now, if we go back into our main 3D view, or sorry, bird's eye view, now as you can see, the shadows have changed. You can also see that here in the site plan. So let's go back to site plan, turn on shadows, and make sure to go to sun settings and to set it to still. And let's go maybe 10 a.m., hit apply. There we go. So this will of course change if you change this to 0 and then hit enter. Now as you can see, it goes like this, but if you change it to 30 degrees, it goes like that, or maybe 45 degrees, or you can maybe orient it all the way around. So maybe you can go something like 300 degrees, and it looks like this. And now if we go to our main 3D view, or yeah, bird's eye view, it will look like this. So you can play around with the project orientation, and I suggest of course you set it up in the correct project orientation. Let's go with maybe 30 degrees like that, and that will give you the most realistic shadows from your model. And then you can play around with the time just to get the shadows just right, perhaps if you want to orbit or orient everything around so it gives you the perfect shadows for rendering. Maybe for this project I'm going to go with something like, let's go with 2 p.m. I think this will work best. Yeah, I think this looks nice. So we have some shadows on this side, and then it's illuminated from this side, and it gives us the perfect shadows for that view. Now you would of course repeat that, so maybe for our main 3D view, go to shadows on, and then go here to sun settings, and then go to still, and then here we can go with, let's try 10 a.m., hit apply. Yeah, we can go with 10 a.m. It gives us one illuminated side and then one shaded side. I like to have those. So one side is illuminated and the other one is shaded. And let's do the same thing for our interior view. So here it is. Turn on shadows and then sun settings. So let's go here, still. Let's do 2 p.m. for this one, or maybe even 3 p.m. Yeah, this is cool because we have a little bit of light entering into the building over here. I think that's really cool. Okay, so we have our sun set up, or our shadows set up in every view. Now, once all of these views have been properly set up and framed, now it makes it really easy when you want to add some more elements just to make everything look a bit more exciting. So for example, for this view, it looks a bit odd having just these empty desks. So for example, I want to add some computers on these desks, and I want to add some people. perhaps moving around this office. Now I know that only these desks will be visible. Now if I didn't create the view first, then I would have to maybe set up the whole office. Now I know that I can only add maybe laptops to a few of these desks that are maybe a bit closer here, and maybe add a person over here or over here, and it's going to be enough. So we don't have to make everything look nice, only the views that work, or only the parts of the views that are going to be visible in renderings. So for example, for this interior, let me go here to the first level, and then I know that I need to make these desks over here look nice and add stuff here. So first, let's add some people. Maybe that would be interesting. So actually, with Revit, you have some people in the just in the families that come with your version of Revit. So just go here to Insert tab and then go into Load Family. And here under US Metric, we have the Entourage folder. Open that up, and here we have some RPC families. So these are basically families that are made to work like basically families that consist out of images, and then as you can see, these here we have people, and we have the notebook, computer, picture frame. So actually I'm just going to load in this male and female, and then let's hit open. There we go. So now I can go back into architecture, go to component, and there we go. So maybe we can place the male somewhere over here, and then the let's go with female. So for the, or no, this was male. Let's see, let's go with female, maybe Florence, and then let's place her here. And now let's open up that 3D view again. So as you can see, we have a person here and a person here. Now it might look a bit weird like this, but don't worry, these images are made to orient towards the view. So if I were to turn this into realistic, hopefully it will look a bit better. There we go. So as you can see here, we have Florence, and this is the man, and his name is Dwayne. So here's Dwayne. So as you can see, it makes everything look a bit more interesting. Maybe add one more person here. Let's go back into first level, and then let's go to component. Maybe add Lisa over here. Maybe she's sitting somewhere over here or standing over here. Let's open up the 3D view again. There we go, there's Lisa reading the paper or a magazine next to these chairs. So there we go, that's how you add people. Now of course let's add a few notebook computers over here. So for that I have some families saved with this project, or saved for this project, and these will be available with the exercise files for this project. So I'm just going to go back into first level and go here into component, and then go into load family. Now I'm going to load these from my desktop. Here I have the families folder, and here I have the laptop, the Asus laptop. Let's open that up, and as soon as it opens up, we can place it somewhere over here. Now I'm going to place it just like this here. Let's try, yeah, let's just place it over here on the ground, and when you select it, you want to give it a height offset that's going to bring it up a little bit. So let's actually go here into this section, and then let's see. So as you can see, the laptop is, well, it's floating in the air a little bit. So maybe instead of giving it an offset, let's go to move, and then let's select the bottom of it. Maybe turn on thin lines for that. Select it, hit enter, select the bottom, and then place it here on top of the table. Now once you go back into first level, it should still be visible, and it is. And then you can rotate it around a little bit, maybe like that, maybe a bit more, yeah. And let's place it perhaps on this table here, just like that. Let's go to copy and copy this one perhaps here, copy it once again here. Oops, I orbited it, or I rotated it. Yeah, let's go to copy, and let's copy it here to Mark, or sorry, Dwayne. Sorry, Dwayne. So let's rotate it around towards Dwayne. Yeah, that looks nice. And now let's go back into our interior 3D view. And now this looks a bit better with a few of those laptops. Maybe add one on this table over here. So let me select that table and go into our first level floor plan. Okay, so that is this table over here. So I can just select this, copy it there. There we go. And now if we go into 3D view, yeah, so we're going to have one laptop even here, so it looks kind of a bit nicer, and it looks a bit more livable. Now, if you were making this a bit more realistic, you would add maybe some coffee mugs, things like that, maybe some plants around, but for now, this is enough. One more thing that I noticed, this storage family over here seems to be a bit too high for my liking for this view, so I'm just going to select it and change the height to just 100 centimeters, and then hit apply, and there we go. So this looks nice enough. So once we have this view set up, let's move to one of the other ones. So let's do the exterior views. So our main 3D view is going to look like this. So here, to make this a bit more realistic, maybe we can add a few elements that would maybe go along with a project like this. So something like that would be some street lamps. Now, also keep in mind that we have a second exterior 3D view that's over here, so we need to make sure that all of the elements we add in will be visible in both views. So for example, here we can see the parking lot, so maybe we can add some cars here in the parking lot as well as here on the street. So for that, let's go back into our street level, and here let's go to architecture component, and then let's load in some families. Now here I have some cars, so let's load in this Audi A3 family, and let's place it here. I'm just going to hit the space key to orient it around. There we go. So we have that. Let's go to load family again. We have a Honda Civic as well. Let's open that up. And that one I will place over here, just like that, like it's on the road. And then let's do one more, perhaps entering the parking lot. We can load in another family. Let's go with a Mercedes for that. Open that up. Now let's zoom in over here. Now if you just hover over this arc and hit the space key, as you can see, it will orient to that. So you can kind of select the car, and now if you go around this corner, as you can see, it will kind of orbit all the way around in a circle. And that's really cool, because then you can place it like this, like the car is entering the parking lot at an angle, and that looks nice. Now it will slow down your project, so make sure you add this only for renderings, and then you can always select these and then hide them in view if it's slowing everything down, just because as you can see, if we zoom in, it has a lot of these polygons, a lot of these meshes, so it looks a bit weird. Okay, let's go to our exterior 3D view, bird's eye view. Let's go there. Now as you can see, this looks a bit nicer. Maybe we can pull this car a bit more in frame, like that. And as you can see, you can play around with these even in 3D views. There we go. This one can be maybe a bit further in. There we go. Yeah, I think this looks nice. Let's check out the main 3D view. Okay, I think this looks really cool. So we have this car over here. It looks nice. Now also we can add some lamp posts. So I even have that. Let's go back into street level to component, load family. Here, let's see, street light. Open that up. And then we can place these right along this sidewalk here. So maybe add one here, one here, one here, one there, and then let's do the same thing on the other side. There we go. And a couple of more. Now if we go into one of these 3D views, as you can see, it looks a bit more realistic with these lamp posts. Same thing with the bird's eye view. Yeah, a bit more realistic. Now to eliminate the rest of this, what you can do is you can add maybe those smaller posts. So let's go back into street level here. And then let's go to component, load family, and I'm going to be loading these, let's see, garden light fixture, open that up, and maybe we can place those over here, just along the side of this. You don't have to be overly exact, we're just trying to make everything look nice, not be perfect. Maybe go here with one as well. There we go. Now we can select these families. Now make sure that only the lighting fixtures are selected, and then I'm just going to use the mirror option with the pick axis one and then flip it to the other side. There we go. Looks nice. Now again, double check everything in 3D views. So as you can see, we can see them here as well. Same thing goes with the bird's eye view. I think it looks a bit nicer with all of these families added in. Also, maybe you can add the a sign over here, maybe the speeding sign or something like that. So I have a family for that as well. We can test that out. So here it is, speed limit sign. Let's open that up, go into street level. There we go. So we can place it perhaps over here, just like that. Now just double check what everything looks like. Yeah, I think it looks nice, but it's kind of over the building, so I'm just going to select it and maybe move it further out like this. Maybe I would prefer a position like this. So it is still adding to the whole scene, but it's not too much. So I can appreciate this detail over here, but it's not over our building. So I like that. Now again, to make everything look a bit more livelier, let's add a few more people here on the outside. So I'm going to move back into street level and then go to component. Let's search for those people families, the RPC people families. There we go. So let's add maybe Alex over here. Then we can go and add Tina over here. And then let's add J over here. Now to place people up here, I need to move to my ground level, and then I can place somebody else there. So maybe let's go with I don't know how to pronounce. Okay, let's go with Kathy, and let's place her here. Okay, let's now go into our main 3D view just to see what that looks like. And as you can see, it looks a bit nicer with a few people there. So let's just see what that would look like in realistic. So let's switch here to realistic, and also let's switch this to fine level of detail. But there we go. I think this looks nice. We have a few people here. Now they are kind of looking away from us, which is kind of annoying. So let's select this, go to rotate, and then let's rotate it around by 180. Let's see, will this fix the problem? Yes, it did. So here as well, 180, hit enter. There we go. With Kathy, let's try 90 degrees. There we go. And here with J, let's do 180 as well. There we go. So it looks nice in this view. Let's go back here into hidden line just because it's going to be a bit easier on our computer. And then let's go to our bird's eye view just to double check. Yeah, and everything looks nice here as well. And maybe go into a fine level of detail and realistic just for a moment to check those families. And yeah, I actually think this looks really good. And it does add a bit more to the scene. Maybe move this a bit here. Yeah, and there we go. Okay, looks perfect with all of the people. Now, one more detail that I think that it's going to make this building look a bit nicer is to add a sign to the building. So for the sign, I want to add the sign over here on this wall, and also I want to play around with this wall. So it's currently just the base generic wall, and we can leave it at that. Just let's change the material. So here for the material, I'm going to go with something white, and I'm just going to go with the gypsum wall board, just because I know the white material type that it's used there. So let's just go like this, apply, okay, there we go. And I want to place a sign on this, but I don't want to place it directly over this wall. I want to have a little bit of an artistic detail here in this corner. So what I'm going to do for that is go here and let's go into our default 3D view. And let's maybe collapse some of these views or turn them off. We don't have to have all of these. Just like that. There we go. Ground level as well. Okay, here we are in the default 3D view. Let's orbit around here and zoom into this wall. Now what I want to do is go and create a void here and then add a different type of a material. I want to add some sort of a wood material here to make it look a bit nicer. So for that, let's just go here to component, and I'm going to go with model in place. Now for the family category, just because it's going to be a void inside of this wall, we have to name it a wall category. Just because if we had a different category, it wouldn't create a void into this wall. So just keep that in mind. Hit OK. Let's call it our building sign. There we go. Now just go to void forms, void extrusion, set to the work plane, go with a pick a plane option, and then you should select this wall plane or wall face. Now just by using simple lines, I'm going to sketch something out that looks like this, and then I want to follow this line. So I'm going to go with pick lines, pick that line. Okay, here if I move it, it doesn't work that good, so let's go back and actually let's go with the pick lines, but let's give it an offset of 10 centimeters, so like that. And now let's move this to the other side, just like this. There we go. And then let's use the pick lines here with no offset to choose these two sides, and now just use the trim and extend to corner and just trim and extend everything just like that. There we go. So as you can see, we're just kind of chopping off this corner just like that. Hit finish. Now currently it's way too large, so let's try something like 10. Okay, looks much better, maybe even 8. There we go. Now to cut into the wall, you have to go with the cut option, select the wall, select the void, and there we go. Now as you can see, it's cutting into the wall properly, and it looks like this. Okay, so once we have that in place, let's kind of play around with our extrusion. So for our extrusion, I just want to add a sort of a wood pattern. So for that, what I'm going to do is just go, let's try to go to the elevation and go here to south elevation. Let's see, elevations, south elevation. There we go. I can see it a bit better now. Okay, so once we're here, let's just go here to create extrusion, and let's go with pick a plane. Okay, and let's pick this plane here. Now I'm just using the tab key to try to select it. If you cannot select it, go into your 3D view and then try here. Now as you can see here, we're having trouble selecting this, and that's just because it has been created by a void. So then we can select maybe this plane, and then we'll basically adjust it later on. So let's go back into our south elevation, and let's create something that, I don't know, just one simple vertical element like this. Select it, and then let's move it over here into the corner. Now you can select it and just copy it like this. Let's see, what's the width? 6 centimeters. That's okay. So let's just select it and then copy it by the value of 12. There we go. Now go to copy again, make sure you check multiple, and then you click here, and then you just go like that. So you have equal distances. Now once you have a few created, you can just go and select it like this. Go to copy, make sure multiple is selected, and then go again like this. And as you can see, now we have more elements. Now you can do the same thing all over again, and then you're basically trying to mimic the array option, just because we don't have it, as you can see. But anyways, let's go like that, and there we go. I think this is enough. And then in this case, just go to align. And now if you cannot align it to this, let's try pick lines. Okay, that doesn't work either. So let's try by placing a line over here. And then let's move it off to here. And then just try to align it with this. You don't have to be exact. You can overlap it just a little bit. That's okay. And now what you can do is just go here to align and then use this as reference. There we go. Don't worry if it's overlapping. That doesn't really matter. We're going to be deleting this line later on. So there we go. Now you can also go with multiple align. So you just select this and then select the rest of these. And just when you're done, you just select the original line and then delete it. There we go. Looks nice. And the same thing goes here. Let's see, can we align it to here? Yes, we can. So just go like that. And then select the rest of these. There we go. And then here, perhaps just do a simple line. And then trim and extend to corner. And again, trim and extend to corner here. And there we go. So once we have this, let's switch into some sort of an plan view, like the site plan. Zoom in over here, hit finish. Now, as you can see, it looks like this. Maybe move this towards the wall and then make the extrusion look like that. There we go. I really like the look of this. And then let me just select this extrusion and then change the material to something like wood. Let's type in wood and let's go with birch. There we go. Hit finish. And there we go. We have this nice element here, and then we can add our sign here. So what I'm just going to do is go to architecture, go to model text. And before we do that, let's select the plane, pick a plane, okay, and then let's select this front face of this wood. Then go to model text and let's type in whatever you want for your building name. I'm just going to type in Balkan Architect. There we go. Just hit OK, and then as you can see, you can place it here. Now it's at a weird angle, but don't worry, we should be able to rotate that around. Let's place the center of rotation here, and then let's go like this. Okay, we can fix this even further, but first let's make the text a bit smaller. So first for depth, let's go with something like 3 centimeters or maybe 5. Apply. There we go. And for the size, let's go into edit type, duplicate this. Let's go with just 500 or maybe even 400, and then let's go with CG for Century Gothic. Hit enter and then change the font here. Let's find Century Gothic. There we go. Bold, and then here 40. Hit OK. There we go. Looks much better and much more elegant. Now you can go back into your south elevation and try to align this perfectly. So go to rotate. There we go. I think this looks correct now. And place it just like that. Now if we go to our main 3D view, it would look like this, and I think it adds to the model really a lot. I really think it looks nice. And of course, if you go here into realistic, it's going to look even nicer. Just maybe change the material of this so you can change it to something like, let's see, let's go to material and let's go with the same gypsum wallboard, so it's white. There we go. And as you can see, it looks nicer already. So there we go. Just details like this will make everything look even nicer. Let's go here. Yeah, there we go. It looks really cool. So there we go. So now we have added a lot more material to this, and it's going to make our renderings look really nice. And now once we have created the surroundings and added all of the elements that are going to make the whole rendering look a bit more realistic and just a bit livelier, now it's finally time to actually render. So to render, you have to start up the render dialog. Now you can get the render dialog by clicking the R button on your keyboard twice. Okay, so here Revit is offering us to save the project, and then let's wait for a second, and here we go. Here is the render dialog. Now you can also get to this same dialog by going here to view and then go here to render, and there we go. Now the first button says render, and we're going to be talking about this later on, or pressing it a bit later on, but for now let's go through all of the settings. So here, first we have the settings for quality. Now I prefer going to either medium or high quality. I just found that going with medium quality is pretty much enough. Draft isn't so good, but medium or high is enough. If you go to best, it can be a bit overwhelming for your computer, and it might take too much time. And just an important thing to acknowledge is that this quality doesn't really make your renderings a bit higher quality or more pixels. It's not going to make it less blurry. It's just referring to the quality that Revit is going to take into consideration when going here, for example, for all of this glass, all of the reflectivity, all of the glass reflections, things like that. So that's what the quality settings is. But the output settings, this is referring to pixels. So this is what's referring to having your images not blurry and pixelated, but having them really sharp. So for quality, feel free to go with the medium unless you're rendering lights or some glass structures, or structures that include a lot of glass and a lot of reflectivity, things like that. Then you would go maybe with high, and even though this is a glass facade, it's not really that necessary for your daytime renderings to be any more than medium or high. So for now I'm just going to leave it at medium. Next, the output settings. If you want to set it on screen, so if this were to be only viewed on screen, leave it here at screen, but if you want to print it out, make sure you check print, and then here you have the width and height set up, and here it's calculating the number of pixels. Now this is determined by this number over here. This is DPI or density pixels per square inch, and if you're going with printing, go with 300 dpi or even 600, but I just found that 300 is enough. If you're short on time, you can just click here and change it, and when I don't have enough time, I just go with 250. I found that quality is decent enough, and it saves just a bit time on rendering. But for anything else, I suggest you go for 300, and here that calculates this image, and it's going to be 400 millimeters or 4,204 pixels wide with this height. So this is going to be the pixel density. Next we have the lighting. Now here it's set up to sun only. You can set it up to sun and artificial only, and then this is for exterior, and then here we have some interior settings. Now this is an exterior rendering, so I suggest you go to sun only or sun and artificial. Now if you check it to sun and artificial, these lights inside will light up, so if that's something that you want to have turned on, then I suggest leaving that on. Here we have artificial lights, so this will give you all of the lights that are included in this project. So here you can set up the dimming. So if maybe some of these lights are too bright, you can make them less bright if that's something that you want to do. Now I'm just going to click OK. Now here for the background we have sky with a few clouds. Now you can set it to few clouds. I actually like it with very few clouds. I don't like clouds. Now that's pretty much it for these basic settings. And here we have the exposure settings, but I suggest you first render and then you set those up. Now also one more really useful option that we have over here is this region option. So this allows us to just test out some parts of the rendering. So you can go here to region, and then this is the region. You can select it, and then perhaps you want to see what would this sign look like. So we can actually zoom in over here to that region, and now we can only render that region. So if I go here to render, let's just wait for a second for Revit to render this. And as you can see, once this is rendered, we just have this portion of our view. So if we zoom out, we don't really see anything else. So we can double check if everything looks fine before we go into the full rendering. Here I can see the bricks look nice, everything looks nice, the sign looks nice. So, and the I don't know, is it Liz, if I remember correctly? She looks nice as well, so we're happy with this detail. So now we can just cancel out of this or go here to show model, and now we're back to the model. Now we can uncheck this crop region, and now we have the full view. Now you would just go here to render, and then we can render the full completed view. So just click render, and there we go. And as you can see, everything now looks perfect. So even just set at medium, you're going to notice that all of the reflections look really nice. I think it looks really good here in the sun. I'm really happy with the way that this rendering turned out. The sign is here. Everything looks nice. Even the car has these nice reflections. It just makes everything look a bit more realistic. And yeah, with all of these elements, I think this rendering is now looking quite complete. So I'm really happy with the way this turned out. Now, once you've completed your renderings, you can either save it here to the project, or you can export somewhere on your computer. Now for this one, I'm just going to save it to project. Now here you can name it, and yeah, let's just name it one main 3D view. Now it gives you the _1 just because it's like the version 1 of your rendering. You can leave it at that, or you can just get rid of that number if it's the final rendering. Now I'm just going to leave that number. Maybe I want to make some changes later on, so let's leave it with that. Hit OK. Now here you also have the adjust exposure option. Now here you can adjust the exposure value to maybe make it a bit brighter or darker if that's what you want, or you can play around, even fine-tune it by playing around here with the highlights, make those a bit brighter. As you can see, you can do that. There we go. Or you can make them darker if you don't want highlights. You can play around with shadows, make them darker or lighter, depending on what you want to achieve with your rendering. Also here we have the saturation. You can make it more intense like this. As you can see, all of the colors are more intense, or you can make it a bit grayer, or even make it completely black and white. I like it to be a bit intense, so let's move it here. There we go. And here you can make it either cooler or warmer. Let's go with a bit warmer and a bit more intense. A bit more. Yeah, this looks really cool. So there you go. You can play around, maybe even more. Let's bring up the highlights. There we go, it looks really nice. And maybe just make the whole thing a tad brighter. Yeah, there you go. I think this looks really cool right now. Maybe a bit darker. you have to really fine-tune this. As you can see, even small changes affect this image drastically. But now we can go back and hit OK, and now I can save this to project again, and this will be version 2. So if I just close this off, you're going to notice that it's going to get rid of the rendering here. There we go, it's back to the regular hidden line view. But if I scroll down over here, we have the renderings node, and if I open that up, here we have the first rendering and then the second rendering, and as you can see, the second one is a bit more intense than the first one. Now you can use either one of them, or you can even create a new rendering if that's something that you want to do. And then you would of course repeat the process for the second one. And then for the interior one, it's a bit different. So for the interior one, you would go here and just do the double R for the rendering dialog, or go here to render, and then let's set it to medium, or maybe even high for this one, just because it has interior lighting. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at medium, and here let's set this to 300 dpi, and here we get the pixels for that. Now here for the scheme, I'm going to go with interior, sun, and artificial. And then for artificial lights, I'm just going to leave them on, and then I'm just going to go with the regular sky with a few clouds. And then let's try rendering this one. And this is what we get as a result of that. Now again, we would have to go here to adjust exposure, maybe make this a bit darker, and then also for the highlights, make those definitely a bit darker. Let's go even further. Yeah, I think this would work better. And then for shadows, let's see if they're lighter. Yeah, I think it would look a bit nicer. Now here for saturation, I think I'm going to go with a bit grayer here, just because there's so much of this wood. And then for color, maybe a bit warmer, or let's try cooler. Yeah, for this interior, I actually prefer cooler. I think just because of this wood is so strong, or such a strong color, that's why. And then maybe a bit brighter. There we go. Hit OK. And I'm really happy with this interior rendering, and then I will just go here to save the project, and then just click OK. Now if you want to export any of these, just go here to export, or then later on go here to your renderings, and then once you get to your rendering, you go here to file, and then you go to export, go all the way down to images and animation, and then go here to image, and then that's how you would export a rendering image like this one. But there you go, that's how you make renderings or interior renderings like this. Okay, so I think we're going to be stopping right here. We're just over an hour, so I think this was a good course where I explained basically all of the things about renderings and rendering an office building like this. Now, of course, for any further information about rendering, I have those two courses that are just on rendering. So I explained some of the other topics related to renderings. This course covered more the topics that were related to rendering buildings like this, and how to make nice little renderings like this in a really short period of time. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're done with the tutorial for our course for this week, and I'll see you with the next course next week. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.